Good Shabbos, everyone, and welcome to the special segment known as For the Shabbos Table, sponsored by a grant by the Rubin family. We daven that they should have atzlacha in all of their inyanim, and they ask specially for a tefillah and a schus that they should have a ben zachar. May it be the will of Hashem. Welcome, everyone. And we're going to start off with an interesting Rashi. Rashi says, Vayishlach Yaakov malachim lefanav, and Rashi says malachim mamish. So, the simple meaning is it's to preclude that it wasn't just he sent agents, but it was actual angels. But as we know, when Rashi chooses, he could have said Malachei Shemayim, he could have said Malachei Mala. When he says Malachim Mamish, you should know that there's more than meets the eye. The Yalkut Chamishoy makes a very fascinating revelation. He cites the Medrash that 3 Malachim came to help Yaakov, and the Medrash tells us their names. The Medrash says that the names of the Malachim were Michael, Malkiel, and Shanandiel. And if you noticed it already, if you picked it up, that's the acronym Mamish. Mamish is Michael, Malkiel, and Shanandiel. Now that in itself is very fascinating. But what's more fascinating is if you take out a pen and a paper and you do the gematria. The gematria of Michael is 101. The gematria of Malkiel is 131. And the gematria of Shanandiel is 445. 101 plus 131 plus 445 is 677. It's very easy to figure out that Ezras is 667. And therefore the Yalkut Chamishoy tells us that when we say in the morning, Ezras Avoseinu, the help of our ancestors, we should have in mind these 3 malachim, Michael, Malkiel, and Shanandiel, which is the gematria 677, which is the gematria of Ezras. Now, I'd like to take the opportunity now to point out to my Talmidim that angels play a very big part in the history of the Jewish people. We know Chayne Malach Hashem Saviv Liyareya Vayichaltzeh. Angel of Hashem camps around those that fear him and delivers them. And if we look through our history, we will find many times, we won't go through, a whole litany, but just to give you an example, if you remember, when Esther was asked by Achashverosh, Mi Uzev Hashem Eloholi Ba'olas Cain, Esther wanted to point to Achashverosh. He abducted her. It says Achashverosh is chosh roish, a headache. It was a headache for the Jews. It says that he hated the Jews even more than Haman. So when she said Ish Sarva'iv, she wanted to point at Achashverosh. That wouldn't have been too good. But a malach came and pushed her hand to Haman. And she said, Haman hara hazeh. If you remember, when Achashverosh got angry, so he went to cool out. He went into the garden to cool off. And malachim were outside chopping down the king's trees in the king's orchard, the royal orchard. And he said, "Who sent you?" And they said, "Haman did." He came back in a fury, and a malach had pushed Haman on top of Esther, and that was it. He said, "Agam lichpoishes amalka imi baboyes." Are you trying to conquer the queen in the house? There's a very interesting hidden meaning in this. What Achashverosh went was, "You already conquered one of my queens for not coming in the house. Right? Because Vashti didn't appear, you said I should kill her. And now you're trying to conquer Esther in the house." So, and remember that when she entered without the reshus of the king, it says that Achashverosh got very angry. But Amalek came and made him stretch out the sharvet, the scepter. So malachim are all around. Give you another example. Remember, Bilam Harasha was an advisor by Paro. And when he was there, in the throne room, Moshe Rabbeinu was playing on Paro's lap. Remember, Bisya brought Moshe Rabbeinu into the palace. And he was playing on Paro's lap. And as he was playing on Paro's lap, he took Paro's crown off his head and put it on his own head. And when Bilam saw that, he saw red. He said, "This is the child that I told you to worry about. Kill him." So Yisro was there. He was also an advisor. Moshe Rabbeinu's future father-in-law. Yisro was there. And he said, "Nah, it's just a childish prank." And Yisro said, "Give him a test to see if he has maturity. Put in front of him dull gold and shining bright coals. If he's a child, if he's a baby, he's going to go after the bright coals. If he's mature, he'll go after the dull gold." And it says that Moshe Rabbeinu unerringly went for the gold. But Amalek came and hit his hand. He took the coals. And he put it into his mouth, and that's how he became a stutterer. There's a famous Shachal HaTorah that says, why did Moshe Rabbeinu have to burn his tongue? So the Shachal HaTorah says, fascinating Shach. The Shachal HaTorah says that, remember when Moshe Rabbeinu was in the Teva, and when he came out, he was very hungry. So they brought Egyptian wet nurses, and he wouldn't nurse. Pesha asad l'daber ma'ashchina yonik min atame. The mouth that will speak to the shchina should nurse from a tame. But they put his mouth to their breasts. So therefore his mouth had to be kashed. How do you kash it? With liban, with heat. So that's why you also have the famous Drashas Haran. Why should Moshe Rabbeinu? He needed to be a big orator. He taught all of Klal Yisrael Torah. Why should he become a kvad peh? So there's a famous Drashas Haran that Hashem didn't want somebody to say, "You know why Klal Yisrael accepted the Torah? Because Moshe Rabbeinu was a hypnotic speaker, a charismatic speaker. So therefore Hashem made Moshe Rabbeinu a kvad peh, that nobody should say we accepted the Torah." So Ran, a Rishon, because he was a tremendous speaker. So we see that Malachim, Ezra is saying the Malachim have protected us. Friday night we ask, it's a big controversy, but we end up asking that we say to the Malachim that come to our house, right, two Malachim escort us to our house, and we welcome them, Shalom Aleichem, Bayachem L'Shalom, and then we say, Baruch Huni L'Shalom. please, you should intercede for us for peace. Malachei Hashalom, angels of peace. Now, the Lisadein Bavosecha says that there's another hint in what Rashi says, Malachim Mamish. Remember, Rashi fasted 613 fasts before he printed Rashi. There's so many secrets in Rashi. So the Lisanim Avasecha says, Mamish stands for Mimaisei mitzvahs sha'asa, from the actions of mitzvahs that Yaakov did. Because we know that when you do a mitzvah achas, kaina loy praklet echad, you get an angel. So where are these malachim from? Mamish stands for Mimaisei mitzvah sha'asa, from the mitzvahs that he did. Also, by the way, Mamish can stand for Mariv, Mincha, and Shachris, because these create malachim for us. Now, there is a vart that my Talmidim have heard me say in Shalom Bayis Shiurim. This vart is from the Heilige Rishon Rebbe, and at the same time, independently, the same vart was said by the great Mari Assad, two of the great tzaddikim of yesteryear, Zecher tzaddikim v'kedoshim levrachas chusam yagein aleinu. We know that when Yaakov confronted Esav, so he lined up his 4 wives and the children, and Esav asked a peculiar question. Esav asked, Vayisa es Einav, he raised his eyes, Vayar es hanoshim ves hayoladim, he saw the women, he saw the children, Vayomer mi eilelach, who are these to you? A peculiar question. Who do you think they are? You think they belong to the mailman? Who do you think they are? Vayomer, and Yaakov answered a peculiar answer. Hayolodim asher chanan elikim es avdecha. These are the children that Hashem graced your servant. Now he asked about the wives and the children, and Yaakov only answered him about the children. So what's going on? So these Gedolim give a very, very important understanding. When Esav said, Mi eilalach, he was zooming in on Leah. So remember what happened when the twins were born? They said the older one is for the older one and the younger one is for the younger one. So Leah was supposed to be mine. What are you doing with Leah? So mi eilalach, Eila, Aleph Lamed Hey, is the same letters as Leah. He didn't say it outright, but what he meant is, what are you doing with Leah? She's mine. Another thing you stole from me. What was the answer that Yaakov gave? Yaakov gave, Habonim asher chanan elikim es avdecha. Look at these children. Look at these 6 kids that I have from Leah. A Ruvain, a Shimon, a Levi, a Yehuda. Look at these. Do you think I would have these children if Leah wasn't my bashert? You don't have such good children for somebody that's not your bashert. The proof is in the pudding that Leah was my bashert because of these beautiful children. Now, this is not just a good word. There are times that people say, I don't know, if I married to my Masherta, things would have been different if I married someone else. If you see that you have good children, that's a proof that you're married to your Masherta. Now the next lesson is another very important lesson. V'simna hoisa pelegesh le'elifaz ben Esav. Now to us, who cares who was the concubine of Eliphaz? Who cares? I have to know the family tree. Eliphaz tried to kill Yaakov, took all of his money. I have to know who his concubine is? A very, very big lesson. It's a famous Gemara in Masechta Sanhedrin, Daf Tzadik Tes Amud Beis. The Gemara says that Timnah wasn't just a regular girl. She wasn't concubine material. She was a royal princess. Timnah is a bas malachim. Definitely not a concubine. A concubine is a lowly thing. Doesn't have the rights of a wife. Where does a royal princess come to be a concubine? So the Gemara says that Timnah was a frustrated woman. Timnah is a bas malachim v'rotzes le'isgayer. And she wanted to convert. And she didn't give up. It's a fascinating Gemara. Oba lifnei Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. She made 3 tries. She approached Avram, the man of Chesed, Yitzchak, the man of Din, fairness, Yaakov, V'loi Kibla. And all 3 wouldn't accept her. So now what does she do? So let her get married to some king, some prince. No. Holcha v'hoisa pilegesh le'elifas. She was a mavakesh. She said, Mutav te shivcha la'umazu. Better to be a lowly concubine to this nation, v'loi gevira l'uma acheres, than a mighty queen to another nation. It's amazing. It's amazing. She was feisty. And what happened? What was her child? Amalek. Amalek who would attack Klal Yisrael. Amalek who would bring down the monarchy of Shaul because he didn't kill the women and children. Amalek who gave a threat of annihilation at the time of Haman. Amalek who the Gra says are the German people and the Nazis. It's the Gra's opinion. Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, when the Chancellor of Germany came to Israel, and many people left the Beis Medrash to make a bracha, because the Chancellor was like a king. And Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, the venerable Rav of Yerushalayim, says, I'm not going out to make a bracha on somebody that I'm mechuyev to exterminate. This was before Nazi Germany. And why did this happen? Says the Gemara, because Klal Yisrael, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov shouldn't have been marachekar. They should have been makarevar. Wow. Wow. By the way, it's in the name. Timnah, Tuf, Mem, Nun, Ayin, is the same letters as Monata, which means you refused her. You blocked her. And we learn from here that you have to be very careful from distancing someone. It's a really, really scary thing. Now, the Leiv Shalom adds that the reason why they were merachikar is because they saw tendencies of Amalek in her. And it should be surprising. She had Amalek. But even so, she had such a desire to join Klal Yisrael. She tried 3 times. They shouldn't have been merachikar. Scary thing. You know that her husband Eliphaz, Esav said, kill Yaakov. Now, first of all, Eliphaz learned kibbud avayim from his father. That was his father's strongest suit. And therefore, he wanted to do the biddings of his father. He also, Esav could have very well killed Eliphaz for not listening to him. Esav was bloodthirsty. So Yaakov said to him, you know what, it says, Ani chashiv kameis, I'm going to jump in the water, I'm going to give you everything. So that Rashi says, why didn't Eliphaz kill him? Because he was niskadel b'cheikoi shel Yitzchak. Because he was brought up on the lap of Yitzchak. Yitzchak spent time being mekarev Eliphaz. And it's because Yitzchak spent time with Eliphaz, his Einikel, that's why Eliphaz didn't kill Yaakov. You know, this is Yitzchak's very strong, shining midah. That just like Vayav Yitzchak as Esav, he showed love to Esav, he showed love to his Einikel. And because he was Mekar of his Einikel, that's why we have a Yaakov, that's why we have a Yisrael, and that's why we're Bnei Yisrael. Otherwise, Eliphaz would have killed them. It's very important to be Mekar of people even when they're straying. It's very important. This can't be emphasized enough. Now again, there's not much time. But in the main Chumash here, I said that I'm going to speak about, again, Dinah. Ves achad osor yolodov says that 11 children. So Rashi says, Dinah heichon ha'isa. So Rashi tells us that Yaakov was afraid that Esav would notice her and would want her. So he put her in a box. And Rashi says, very strong words, Ulechein nenesh Yaakov shemona me'achav. Yaakov was punished for holding her back from his brother Shema tavirenu lamutav. She might have brought him back. V'nafla biyad Shem. And therefore instead, she fell in the hands of Shem. Now already in the main Chumash here, we said, how do you understand this? Leah was praised that she prayed not to fall into the lap of Esav. Dinah was 6 years old, Esav was 97. Esav was an adulterer. Esav tried to murder Yaakov. Tried to get his son to murder Yaakov. He announced, Yikr v'yamei evelavi, and I'll kill him. How could you have a taina that you don't want to give your daughter to somebody that wants to kill you? The Gemara says that if you give your daughter to an Amoritz, it's like you're tying her up and putting her before a lion. How could you have a taina on Yaakov? It says that Esav lived between two tzaddikim, Yitzchak and Rivka, and it didn't help. What chance does a 6-year-old have? These are big kashas. So there's a famous Chazon Ish, the Chazon Ish says that normally there would be no taina on a person. But the Chazon Ish said Yaakov with his Ruach HaKodesh knew that Dinah could bring back Esav. And therefore there was a taina on him. So then you'll ask the other way around. If he knew, then why did he block it? So we could answer, right now Esav was an Orel. He was uncircumcised. Remember it says that when he was born, he was red, and they were afraid to give him Mila, because they were afraid his blood didn't absorb. And then when he got older, he refused to, so he was an Orel. An Orel is Mos. Yaakov didn't want to subject his daughter to Mias. And the Chazal say, the Medrash says it was a mistake, because at the end she was raped by a Mos, by Shrem. We should be surprised that in reality Dinah could have brought back Esav. And of course, if she brought back Esav, the whole world history would have been different. There wouldn't have been a Golus Edom. We shouldn't be surprised. Don't forget, this is a girl that Shechem convinced his whole city to circumcise themselves so he could marry her. So she had a lot of power. She had a lot of beauty and grace. Can you imagine convincing a whole city, older people, to serve because of one girl? She had power. Bichlal, the Sefer Hasidim teaches us. The very important Sefer Hasidim. The Sefer Hasidim tells us that there was once a chassid, a pious person, married to a chassida, to a pious woman. And they went many years without having children, so they divorced. And the pious woman married a rasha, and she turned him into a tzaddik. And the pious man married a wicked woman, and she turned him into a rasha. And the Sefer Hasidim says that we see from there that Hakol Mina Isha, everything is from a woman. As he puts it, B'noyig sheba oilam ha'ish karuch achar ha'isha. And he cites, that's what it says by Achav. Rak Isha hisata hisai ezevel ishtai. He was swayed by Izebel, his wife, to do wickedness. The wife of Kairach swayed Kairach, even though she was a Bikeah. On the other hand, Ein ben Pelis' wife saved him by getting him drunk and to bed, and he wasn't there when everybody was swallowed in the ground. That's what it says, Chachmos noshim bonsa boisa v'iveles biyoda tehersena. The wisdom of women make their home, while a foolish woman tears her household down. Now you have to know that this is a very important realization for shidduchim. Sometimes a man will marry a girl. She's a nice girl. Maybe she's a kind girl. But she's more modern. So let's take, for example, she's likes to watch movies a lot. And he says, I'll change her. The husband sets the pace in Ruchnias, I'll change her. She know it's more likely that she'll change him. That's what it says. Ha'ish karach achar ha'isha. It's very important to know this. The Be'er Shabbos tells a very powerful story. Very powerful story. It tells about a woman that married a man, and shortly after the marriage she saw that he wasn't very good. He would sleep until after 1, then get up. It's way past Chatzais without going to Minyan. He would haplap a davening, eat a big breakfast, then go out and get lost with worthless friends, come home really late in the evening. She ended up having to take care of the kids alone, get them tutors, make a parnasa, clean the house. And of course, after several years, she just went for a get. And she said when she got divorced, she said, it's not pshat that she got out of jail. She feels that she got out of a meshuggah house. Anyway, a year goes by, and he marries again. And of course, the kids had visitation with their father. They went for Shabbos. And she finds to her surprise that the children say there's a change in daddy. He has set times for learning. He's learning with us Gemara. he has a job. And she was really, really surprised. And she looked into it. And she found a bit of truth. That the second wife dealt with him very differently. She was cold and always criticized. The second wife never criticized him. The smallest thing that he did good, she praised him, and she was always very warm to him. And that's the difference. I wanted to say a chiddush, that chochmas noshim, you know me with anagrams, chochmas, ches chof mem sof, is it took me a while to realize this. But chochmas is toich cham, in the midst of warmth. That does it. It's like Rav Palm said, the secret of education today is chamimus, chamimus, more chamimus. Warmth, warmth, and more warmth. We should have that in our homes. I want to thank you for joining us. Thank the Rubin family. I want to mention that on my YouTube channel, I started putting some Chanukah shiurim. I put a Q&A that I did in the Irgun Shirei Torah in 2018, where Yossi Tov was the moderator. So it's very interesting. You might want to check that out if you go to YouTube. Remember to subscribe and like. Also, if you would like to sponsor next week's Chanukah share, we don't have a sponsor yet for the Chanukah share, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful Shabbos.